This story is called My Mama's Gift. Joanne, Barbara, Mary Jo, Dorothy Marie. I could hear Mama's frustration as she called out my sisters' names one by one, and I knew by the time she got to my name, Patricia Ann, I was going to have an earful. And that's how it was in a family of 12. And being the baby, I knew Mama was going to go through several names before she got mine right. Mama was a petite lady, only 4'10", though she claims to have been 5'2" once upon a time. She was heavy for her size, for her height. And when she laughed, her belly shook like a bowl full of Jell-O. It was a glorious sight to behold. All of us kids, we had our chores we had to do. The boys helped Daddy in the field, and the girls would help Mom in the garden. Well, we shucked ears of corn. We picked vine-ripe tomatoes. We snapped po beans. We peeled peaches. We picked grapes for jelly and for homemade wine. But there wasn't nothing any better than freshly shelled peas that would later fill my plate at supper time all the way full. Well, except for my mama's fried apple pies covered with cinnamon and sugar. Now, by the time I was born, Mom was an excellent cook. Though she hadn't always been like that, there was a little deception in the way she snagged my daddy. The little town that they grew up in, every year they would have a barn dance and an auction. The ladies were to bake a pie, and the men would bid on them and win both the pie and a date with the baker. Well, Mama was a farmer's daughter. She worked in the tobacco patch all the time, and so she did not know how to bake. Not to stop her, though. She merely had her good neighbor and partner in crime, Mrs. Walton, bake the pie for her. Well, my daddy placed the highest bid, and they quickly became sweethearts. And her secret remained a secret until they got married. Well, fortunately, Daddy knew how to cook. In fact, when Mom started having the older siblings, he still cooked most of the meals. But as the family grew, he worked in the field more often, and guess what? Mom became the greatest cook in the entire county. Mom was 93 when we took her to the nursing home. I flew back to Kentucky to spend time with her. I didn't go to be a caregiver. I went to be a daughter. I had siblings who spent every day with her, would take turns, and they would leave at 7 o'clock at night. And that's when I would go in. I opened the door to the nursing home and would see several residents in the lobby, and within taking 2 steps, inhaled both wisdom and disinfectant. I made my way back to Mama's room, and she would be wide awake, though minutes earlier pretended to be asleep so my sister would leave. Well, I chided her for doing that, but I was so glad she was awake. I pulled my chair up next to her bed and held her hand. I talked about the things going on in my life, how I wanted to be a storyteller. You might say, I did all the talking and she did all the listening. She was my first captive audience. I read to her from the book of Psalms, talked to her about those streets of gold and those gates made of pearl. Now, Mama, somebody's going to come and take you home really soon. Now, don't you be afraid when they do, okay? Her vivid blue eyes, now shadowed over by age, rested on mine, but she said nothing. The last night I was with her, I pulled my chair next to the bed as I had many nights before. And as I turned my face to her, all of a sudden, her hands reached up, and with 2 index fingers, now deformed with arthritis, she placed them on each of my cheeks. In a moment of clarity, she said, "I love you, Patricia." Time stood still. No other names were called. There was no frustration in her voice. She merely reached out to the little girl in me and called me by name.